Ever wondered how a country with over 250 ethnic groups and 500 languages holds together? Welcome to Nigeria, a vibrant, complex nation where ethnicity and politics are deeply intertwined. Today, we're diving deep into the fascinating story of how this relationship has shaped Nigeria's past, present, and future. From pre-colonial kingdoms to the modern-day democratic struggle, this is Nigeria, explained. To truly understand Nigeria, we have to go back in time, long before its modern borders were drawn. Before the British arrived, the land was home to a mosaic of powerful empires, kingdoms, and societies. In the north, you had the Hausa-Fulani Caliphate, a large, centralized Islamic state. In the southwest, the Yoruba people had sophisticated city-states and kingdoms like the Oyo Empire. And in the southeast, the Igbo people organized themselves into autonomous, democratic villages and clans. Each group had its own unique political system, culture, and identity. There was trade, diplomacy, and yes, conflict between them, but they existed as separate entities. This pre-colonial reality is the foundation upon which modern Nigeria was built, and it's crucial to understanding the tensions that would later rise. Then came the scramble for Africa. In 1914, the British colonial administrator Lord Lugard amalgamated the northern and southern protectorates into a single entity called Nigeria. This decision was made not for the benefit of the people living there, but for administrative convenience and economic exploitation. Suddenly, hundreds of diverse ethnic groups, some of whom were historic rivals, were brought together under one colonial government. The British implemented a policy of divide and rule, often favoring one group over another to maintain control. They utilized the existing Hausa-Fulani leadership structure to govern the north, while in the south, they educated a westernized elite, primarily from the Yoruba and Igbo communities, to serve in the civil service. This created an imbalance of power and sowed seeds of suspicion and competition that would last for generations. The very creation of Nigeria set the stage for a future where ethnic identity would become a primary vehicle for political mobilization. As Nigeria moved towards independence in 1960, politics began to organize along ethnic lines. Three major political parties emerged, each with a stronghold in one of the three main regions. The Northern People's Congress, or NPC, was dominated by the Hausa-Fulani. The National Council of Nigerian Citizens, the NCNC, was primarily Igbo-led. And the Action Group, or AG, was the party of the Yoruba. This tripod structure meant that national politics became a zero-sum game. Winning power at the center often meant securing dominance for your ethnic group, including access to resources, jobs, and development projects. This fierce competition for control of the federal government laid a precarious foundation for the newly independent nation. The dream of a unified Nigerian identity was already being challenged by the reality of ethnic loyalties. This intense regional and ethnic competition tragically boiled over in the mid-1960s. A military coup in January 1966, led mainly by Igbo officers, was followed by a counter-coup 6 months later, led by Northern officers. These events were accompanied by horrific ethnic violence, primarily targeting Igbo people living in the north. Fearing for their safety and feeling marginalized from the Nigerian state, the Igbo-dominated eastern region, led by Colonel Odumegwu Ukwu, declared independence as the Republic of Biafra in 1967. The Nigerian federal government refused to accept the secession, and what followed was a brutal 30-month civil war. The conflict resulted in the deaths of over 1 million people, many from starvation due to a federal blockade. The Biafran War left deep, lasting scars on the national psyche. It cemented the fear of ethnic domination and the fragility of Nigerian unity, issues that continue to echo in the country's political discourse today. After the war, Nigeria entered a long period of military rule, which lasted, with a brief interruption, from 1966 to 1999. You might think military dictatorships would suppress ethnic politics, but in many ways, they made it worse. Military leaders, who often came to power through coups, tended to surround themselves with officers and officials from their own ethnic groups for security and loyalty. The allocation of oil revenue, Nigeria's primary source of wealth, became highly centralized and was often distributed based on patronage networks tied to the ruling elite's ethnicity. This further intensified the feeling that to benefit from the national cake, your ethnic group needed to be in power. This era reinforced the idea that political power was the key to economic survival and prosperity for one's community, making the stakes of politics incredibly high. In 1999, Nigeria returned to democratic rule, a moment of great hope and optimism. To address the historical ethnic tensions, an unwritten rule called zoning or power shift emerged within the major political parties. The idea was to rotate the presidency between the predominantly Muslim North and the predominantly Christian South every 2 terms, or 8 years. The goal was to ensure that no single region or ethnic bloc would dominate the country as highest office indefinitely. This informal arrangement was seen as a necessary compromise to maintain national stability. For a while, it seemed to work, providing a sense of inclusion and lowering the political temperature. However, zoning has also been criticized for prioritizing ethnic and regional identity over merit, competence, and individual qualifications. So, how does this all play out in modern Nigerian elections? Ethnicity remains arguably the single most important factor in voting behavior. Voters often see a candidate from their own ethnic group as their man, someone who will look out for their community's interests. Political rallies are filled with cultural symbols, language, and appeals to ethnic solidarity. This is often referred to as identity politics. While politicians may speak of national unity, their campaign strategies often rely on mobilizing their ethnic base. This has a significant consequence. It can overshadow crucial debates about policy, economic development, and good governance. Instead of asking who is the best candidate to lead the country, the question often becomes, is it our turn to rule? The intersection of ethnicity and politics also fuels the sensitive issue of resource control, particularly concerning oil. The Niger Delta region, home to many minority ethnic groups like the Igbo, Ogoni, and Itsekiri, produces the vast majority of Nigeria's oil wealth. However, for decades, these communities have suffered from devastating environmental pollution and have seen very little of the revenue generated from their land. This has led to feelings of deep injustice, marginalization, and exploitation. Activism and, at times, militant movements have emerged demanding greater control over resources and a larger share of oil revenue. The struggle in the Niger Delta is a powerful example of how ethnic identity, economic grievance, and political demands are inextricably linked in Nigeria. But the story isn't just about the 3 major groups. Nigeria is home to over 250 distinct ethnic groups, often referred to as minorities. These groups frequently find themselves caught in the political crossfire between the Hausa-Fulani, Yoruba, and Igbo. They often struggle for political representation and fear being dominated by their larger neighbors. To gain influence, minority groups often form strategic alliances with one of the major groups, but this can be a precarious position. The Middle Belt region, for example, is a diverse area with numerous ethnic minorities and is often a key battleground in national elections. Their quest for recognition, autonomy, and a fair share of national resources is a constant and vital part of Nigeria's political drama. So, what is the path forward for Nigeria? Is it destined to be forever defined by ethnic competition? Not necessarily. A growing number of Nigerians, especially the youth, are pushing for a new kind of politics. They are tired of the old narratives and are demanding leaders who are judged on their competence, integrity, and vision, not their ethnicity. The rise of social media has given a voice to this new generation, allowing them to organize and advocate for issues that transcend ethnic lines, like good governance, anti-corruption, and economic opportunity. Movements like the NSARS protests showed the power of a unified youth voice. This shift towards issue-based politics represents a significant and hopeful challenge to the old order. While ethnicity will always be a part of Nigeria's rich cultural fabric, it doesn't have to be the primary driver of its politics. The future of Nigeria may well be decided by this ongoing struggle between the politics of identity and the politics of ideas. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into Nigeria's complex political landscape. If you found this explanation helpful, please hit that like button, share this video with someone you think would be interested, and subscribe for more content that breaks down our world. What are your thoughts on the role of ethnicity in politics, in Nigeria or elsewhere? Let us know in the comments below. See you in the next video.